it is fate, what do you do? If it is in your fate, you have to accept what is in your fate. Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. A few days back I did a video on how do you see different characteristics of the spouse, whether the spouse will be good looking, whether the person would be more spendthrift, will the person come from a good family background, maybe good family status, and so on. After that, within a couple of days, somebody calls me and says, "Sir, you have given most of the characteristics of the spouse, but one thing you have missed out, which I was looking for." And this was the person who was hounding me since many days, asking me to talk about different spouse characteristics. So I asked him, what is the thing that I missed out? So he said, "Sir, multiple spouses, sir, multiple spouses." So I said, "Why do you want to know about the placement for multiple spouses?" He said, "I want to validate whether what my astrologer has told me after looking at my chart is true. I want to see the validation from you." So I said, "What did your astrologer tell you?" He said, "My astrologer told me that I have multiple partners in my life." So I said, "Then what do you want to do about it?" So he said that, "Sir, it is fate, what do you do? If it is in your fate, you have to accept what is in your fate." So now two things here. Something called as fate is not always fateful or fated or ill-fated. It is also to a large extent how the zodiac allows us the flexibility to choose after telling us this is the probability of an event happening. Now it's up to you. You choose whether you want to fructify that event or you want to be more careful because you don't see that event as profitable for you, fruitful for you. So I told this guy that, see, this is what it is. But he said, "Sir, at least for academic purposes, you should tell us so that we can be more aware what may happen in the future and where we can be careful." So I thought there is some thoughtfulness in what he is saying. So I was trying to avoid this particular topic. I must have talked about this fleetingly here and there, but I have not talked about this in detail. However, a few things have happened over the last 15-20 years that I have been doing astrology, almost 25 years now, that prompted me that maybe it is the right time for me to talk about how your horoscope may show multiple relations, and there will be only a probability that there may be, but there is no promise, there is no guarantee that it may happen. Now based on what you want to do, whether you see it as a good sign or a bad sign, you may take it forward. You may fructify that event because you see there is a possibility, or you may be more careful because you think that it is not the right thing to indulge in multiple partners just because there is a probability there. You can be more careful and you can also tread your path more carefully. Now one of the reasons why I am saying this is because one incident happened where a girl, and she contacted me, and she is a good friend also, and she told me that how many years back, almost 12-13 years back, she was told when her horoscope was first showed to somebody that she may have multiple relations, and then not one but 2 or 3 astrologers told her that she may have multiple relations. In fact, one astrologer, a very famous astrologer, told her that she will be very, very promiscuous, almost going on the verge of even prostitution. And so she was really taken aback. How can somebody say this? And she was in a, or she is in a very sacred profession, one of the most sacred professions on earth. So she was very heartbroken, and she was that how can this even be possible? And so that really took a toll on her, because not one but 2 or 3 astrologers told her the same thing. And there is this very famous astrologer on YouTube who also gave that one placement of what he saw in her chart, but he didn't talk about her, but he talked about in general that this is your placement in this particular house, then you may have multiple partners, even up to 30 to 40 partners you may have. So when so many people were corroborating that placement, and because of looking at astrology maybe more from a very limited notion how it should be seen, so people were just predicting. So this is a really tough place when one gets into, when you have these instances where somebody may talk to such an extent negative things, if I can use the word, unless somebody wants to know about multiple partners and it's a great thing for them. But if it's so negative that you may be promiscuous, you may be indulging in prostitution, or you may have 30 to 40 partners because of one placement in the horoscope, and that's what you're saying on YouTube, then I would tell you guys, all those people who watch multiple channels on YouTube and astrology channels, if you find any astrologer because of one placement saying because of this placement you're gone, this may happen, negativity may happen, you lose, this may negative thing may happen, or you lose your spouse, or you will lose your job, you lose your riches, or you may become a pauper, then just tell that astrology channel bye bye. Why do you want to watch all this negativity? This will create unnecessarily those instances in your life which may not be true. They will trigger those events, because these astrological placements are probabilities, they are not actual promises, but because they keep triggering in your mind, my spouse had this placement, maybe my spouse is cheating, that may happen. And in fact, this incident happened with somebody I know. This happened about 4 or 5 years back, where a lady who had some doubts on her husband, she saw some of his placement, she showed it to an astrologer, and astrologer said, your husband must be having some extramarital affair. And she confronted her spouse and she screamed and shouted at him, and so her spouse accepted. He said, I've cheated you and I was not so happy. And then she went ahead, used that instance to divorce him. And then after 2 or 3 years, I think about a year back I'm talking about this, after 2 or 3 years of this incident, and about a year back, this gentleman got in touch with me and he said, he narrated the story. He said, this is what happened. But he said, I never cheated my spouse. But because he had seen this placement and I was truly unhappy with her, and she said, you have cheated and this, I know this, and you please tell me, you need to be a man, stand up to what you have done. So I accepted, because this was a way out for me. So you see that sometimes some events may trigger certain things. And this man, he used to like a girl in his office. He was talking to her, both of them were in bad marriages, but he had never gone the distance. So when this woman confronted him, he got a chance to get out of the relationship and get into a relationship with the other woman. So it got triggered. But there was a probability of the man indulging, but he never did. He never crossed that Lakshman Rekha. But because this woman allowed him, he left her and he went on with the girl. Now somebody may say there was this emotional cheating already going on, that the man was already talking to the woman. Yeah, maybe. But we do talk to people who we consider to be friends. We do let our hair down in front of them and talk about it. Unless you are emotionally linked to the person and then you are doing something, that could be called as cheating. Just talking to a friend and saying that I'm going through these challenges may not be emotional infidelity. So I want to jump in. I don't want to get into too many details of this planet means that and all that, because unnecessarily you will see that placement either in your horoscope, in the horoscope of a partner or spouse or would-be spouse, and you may unnecessarily trigger events which may not be feasible, which may not even happen. Now one rider on this particular video, see, till about 20-25 years back, in a lot of people who came from the Western countries, I saw many of these placements to be true, and they were triggering some of these challenges in the relationship. However, in the Indian subcontinent, the same placements were not triggering the same events. The reason was the culture differences, the Desh Kal Patra. However, what I've seen is in the last 4 to 5 years, with all these dating apps and the dating culture, and even in the Indian subcontinent it becoming more westernized, parents also being more open and being more liberal. Even in India, I have seen now in the last 4 or 5 years, it may have been going on for 10 to 15 years, but I've seen now that people are coming forward, acknowledging that this has happened in their life, that has happened in their life, and it has become more prominent now. So the culture of the country, the atmosphere around you, Desh Kal Patra, I've talked about this a lot, that may also trigger some events, and where we are also replicating a certain society and we are moving on the same lines. So anyways, let's jump into astrological placements which may trigger different or multiple partners. Parashar in his book Parashar Horashastra has given multiple instances, hundreds of instances where somebody may have multiple wives, multiple spouses, multiple husbands, or may even get into infidelity. Now I won't say that each one of them will come true or will be the one. There has to be multiple instances together will give that denotation rather than reading one. But let's jump into see some of the more common ones which I have seen lately, both in Western people or people who are coming from that culture, and now over the last 6 to 7 years also in the Indian subcontinent. So let's jump right into it. Parashara says if your seventh lord is combusted, debilitated, or placed in an inimical sign and with an inimical planet to it, then there is a larger chance or higher chance that somebody may get into multiple relationships. I would say that it is not just this one placement. If apart from that you also have an inimical planet or two inimical planets in your seventh house, then there is a larger challenge, which means seventh lord has to be combusted, debilitated, or placed with a malefic in an inimical sign to it, as well as the seventh house should have at least two inimical planets or even two benefic planets which are adding to the benefic notion. So seventh lord's placement gives you challenges in your relationship because of which relationships break. However, because of having the benefics in your seventh house, that relationship gets established again and again. Then Parashara says that if your seventh lord is in a sign ruled by Saturn or by Venus, and if it is aspected by a benefic, then too it may give you multiple partners. But I would add that if there is also a placement of Saturn in the seventh house or any other malefic with Saturn, for example Saturn or Rahu or Saturn or Ketu, then it would be a more possible event because seventh lord has gone into the sign ruled by Saturn and there are the placement of two planets, one of them being Saturn and another being another very strong malefic like Rahu or Ketu in the seventh house. For example, if it's a Taurus native, that means the Taurus ascendant, then your seventh house sign is Scorpio, and if Mars, which rules Scorpio, goes into the ninth house in exaltation, that means third from its sign. Third house from any house is the Kama bhav of that house. So the third house from the seventh house, that is the ninth house, is also a Kama bhav. So if the seventh lord goes into that sign and in exaltation, but with malefics placed in the seventh house. So here in Scorpio sign, if you have a malefic, what is a malefic to Scorpio sign? Venus, which is a functional benefic, but a malefic for the Scorpio sign gets placed there, then too it may activate that notion that the person may have multiple partners. Then another big culprit is a conjunction of either Venus and Moon, Venus and Rahu, Venus and Ketu, Moon and Rahu, Moon and Ketu. If any of these combinations are happening, or even Venus and Moon in the seventh house with their seventh lord in a malefic sign, or debilitated or combusted or placed in an inimical sign or placed in the dusthanas, then it increases the chance that your spouse may be getting into multiple relationship and trigger your seventh house also because of that, because of which you also get into multiple relations or multiple opportunities come your way. Now one of the strongest placement in the seventh house is Venus, Moon and Rahu together. I have seen at least out of 10 such instances, at least in 6 to 7 instances that it is true that when people have Venus, Moon and Rahu in the seventh house, they may have either themselves or the partner who may have multiple relationships or the chances of multiple relationships. Then the other is Venus, Mars and Rahu, Mars, Moon and Rahu also together in the seventh house or placed with the seventh lord. This can also trigger event because of which you may have multiple partners. Then if the seventh lord is placed in a sign where it is in a friendly sign and with a benefic, and in the seventh house you have a benefic planet and with Rahu or with Venus or with Moon, this also may trigger events where you may have multiple partners going in the direction of even getting into a committed relationship with them, and then after a few years a relationship breaking and then getting into another one. Then if the ascendant lord gets into any of the Kama bhavas, which means if the ascendant lord is either in the third house, the seventh house or the 11th house and with a benefic, This is stronger when the ascendant lord goes into the third house, the Kama Bhava, where you're also putting in effort. You're moving in the direction of looking at different partners, or when the possibility coming towards you, jumping at it. And apart from that, if there is a malefic with either a Venus or a moon in the 7th house, then too it increases your chance. Or if the ascendant lord goes into the 8th house with a malefic there, and the 7th lord is placed with a malefic, or there are two benefics in the 7th house at the same time, then too you may have an instance where you may have multiple partners. Another instance where if the third lord goes into the 2nd house, and if the ascendant is in the 8th house, especially with a malefic, then it increases your chances of you getting into a relationship more than once. And in fact, one of the relationship could also not be a committed relationship, it could be hidden and not acknowledged socially. Now, one important thing, whatever placement you see in your D1 chart, these have to be either strengthened or complemented or given some strength toward the same denotation in your D9 chart also. The D1 chart alone will not give you the possibility of multiple partners, or losing one partner and getting into two, or having two partners at the same time. The D9 chart also has to, in some way or the other, either replicate these placements or give similar placements in the D9 chart also to be able to come about. For example, two benefics in the 7th house when the 7th lord is combusted, and then in your D9 chart you have two malefics placed in the 7th house, can make you lose many relations one after the other. But the zodiac, because you're losing one relationship, keeps putting into another relationship one after the other. The zodiac keeps establishing a house. When you spoil your own house, then if you have 2 or 3 benefics in the Lagna chart placed either with a Rahu or even with a Ketu, for example, Rahu, Moon and Venus, Rahu, Moon and Mars, Rahu, Venus and Mars, or Saturn with these other two planets, or Saturn, Rahu and Moon, Saturn, Rahu or Venus may also give this tendency of a person to look at himself or their own needs rather than that of the spouse, and they may indulge, especially if they have got fame, name, attraction towards them, and that when the opportunity may come, they may slip. So one has to be a little careful if such placements are seen in the D1 chart and are replicated in the D9 chart also, to be a little careful of whether you want to take that opportunity or want to go that direction or not. Because I've seen many houses break, sometimes by virtue of either falling prey to such instances or unnecessarily having suspicion on your partner leading to the breakup, or unnecessarily creating challenges in the marriage, in the relationship where none exists. So my friends, be a little careful. Don't look at single placements either in the D1 chart or D9. I have not given you any one placement because of which you may have more than one partner. I have given you 2 or 3 instances putting together, including that of the D9, which means strengthen yet not promise of this such an instance happening. So be a little careful if you are seeing any of these placements either in your chart or that of partner. Have a discussion and say that we need to be careful and these are chances and we need to be not going that direction, because family is important for us, our own equation with each other is important, peace of mind is important. Because if one peace of mind is shattered because of one failed relationship, because of infidelity or cheating, then from then on any relationship you may get into, there is always this cloud of suspicion, always this probability which is existing, and we don't want the sword of Damocles to be hanging over our head, over a relationship, over a peace, over a happiness in the long run, and that may affect the stability of our mind, stability of our relationship, and overall health of our soul itself. So let's avoid that. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me. The links given below. Till some other time with some other video. This is your friend Astrology and Guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.